welcome to Arch's Garage, and today we're going to be doing a full tune-up, spring tune-up, on the best mower on the planet. It's got to be one. And so why do I say best mower? Well, first of all, this is a Honda mower. So if you guys are looking to tune up a Honda mower, check this video out. I'm going to go through all the basic stuff, right? We're going to do the oil change, we're going to do the blades, some tips on changing the oil, some different products that I like to use, tips on pulling the plug out, cleaning it or replacing it, tips on dealing with the blade. This is a special dual blade system. We'll show you a little bit about sharpening it and just some of my comments on that. Lubrication points, cleaning, a number of things like that. So check it out. This applies to, well, just about any machine, really. So check that out. Good tune-up series on this. So really, why is it the best, right? Well, there's a number of reasons, and we're going to dig into this thing, and I'd like to see what you guys have to say about it and what your comments are, and maybe if you think it's a really good lawnmower, rated on a scale of 1 to 10. And if you don't like it, for whatever reason, let me know, let us all know, and let us know in the comments, too, what you think is a better mower. Now, I say best mower on the planet, and again, it's in the category of a 21-inch machine, maybe 22, right? And these really aren't commercial machines, really. Like this, you could use it as a commercial machine, but I wouldn't say it's in the category of commercial. So we're going to stay with, the consumer homeowner variations that are out there. Now, there's a number of things here, just real fast, guys. Number one, it's got a neck side plastic deck, much better than the older deck. It's never going to rust. Not going to have any problems with that. The paint's not going to peel off. Okay, all of those things that I get to do for what I do here in Arch's Garage, right? I never have to do that on these, right? So another thing would be is the wheels and the adjusters. Well, the adjusters, half of the adjuster is plastic and the other half is steel, right? So you have less problems there. They got really good adjusters on them, very easy to use when they're lubricated. The wheels themselves are heavy duty and they have bearings, actual bearings inside, which I'm going to show you guys in the next video a little bit more about the undercarriage, the chassis, and in the next video, probably the next video, we're going to deal with the rear drive system and how to clean it, lubricate it, and get it going good for you. Common problems with that, very common. You go to pull it backwards, it doesn't want to go, it won't go at all. So that's a few things. All rear-wheel drive machines have that problem, so don't thumbs down for that. Other than that, you don't like rear-wheel drive. I happen to like front-wheel drive because it's easier to deal with. But it's got a great drive system. The transmission on it is aluminum. It's not plastic. I've never seen an actual transmission die other than the plastic ones. What happens is they rust and they're not cared for, and of course anything is going to die from that. So we got really good wheels, heavy-duty wheels. We got the body. We have a great blade system. One of the best blade systems probably on the market. It's a dual blade. You got one that's very high lift, and then you got another one to chop things up. I mulch all the time. I almost never use the bag. It has a 10 detent adjustment for the door, right? It's like an aperture door that allows you to either bag or mulch, either or bag or mulch, or anywhere in between, up to 10 adjustments. Well, I'd say one adjustment's full bag, and the other adjustment's full mulch, so you have 8 adjustments in between. It's got, I think it's a 3-bushel bag, so it's one of the biggest bags out there. This thing picks up my pine needles. Nothing that I've ever tried picks up pine needles at the end of the year. So that's another thing. It's got an adjustable handle. The handle is adjustable, and you twist these little knobs. They're captive, they're sprung, and you just twist them. You don't take them off. There's no fuss, no muss, and you just adjust the handle. It's got a Honda motor on it. I mean, first of all, how do you beat that, right? It's easy to take the top off. It's 3 nuts, and you can clean the entire engine. You can get to just about everything. Honda motor, easy to clean. This one's got electric start, which I modified. That's going to be another video. I modified it because it didn't have a charging system. So that I'll give that a thumbs down because I hated it. I fixed that. Now it's got a starting system on it that is to die for. Full throttle control, right? Idling, full power, full speed control. So it's got a really nice drive system on it, fully adjustable. We'll just leave it at that. Got a great handle design. It also has a clutched blade system. So there's none of this business of shutting it off. You let go of the handles, You put it in idle, you go clean up, pick up dog poop, move the kids' furniture, move the yard furniture around, come back. You don't have to fool around with the machine. It's still running. Bring your RPM up, push the levers, and it goes. There's so many nice little features on this machine. I have two of them, and I bought the first one. It is expensive. It's like $1,000. It's going to cost you. So there's just a number of things on it. Let's get into the video, guys, and tell me what you guys think, and we'll talk a bit more about it over the next few videos in this series, and I'll see you guys in a few minutes. Let's just take a quick look. I'm just going to press down on these tabs. I did this last year, so, and like I said, I didn't use it much. So if you have an air compressor, right, all that's needed on this one is to just blow all this out. We're going to wash this in the degreaser tank, and I'll just wipe and blow over here. So we'll leave this off for now. We can get to everything else. And another thing we're going to do is we're going to turn off the fuel shutoff. Now, in this model, we have a fuel shutoff, so you may not have one, but most Honda engines have that. And if it's a little stiff, I'm going to put a little bit of spray lube on it, because there's just an O-ring in there, and we should be able to get it to move. Yeah, she's stiff. She hasn't been turned all that much. We'll try it. It might take a little, few applications, but it's not a bad idea to do this, because they'll get stuck, right, and then they can break. You might want to support it if you feel like it's difficult. Now, I don't do it all that often. I should have. Generally, what I'll do when I put it away is I have, in my fuel, I've got Stable and Lucas Additives and stuff. So what I'll do a lot of times is towards the end of the year, I'll put a little extra Stable in, like the last cut, and just a little bit more in the tank, cut the lawn, do what I want to do, and then I'll turn this to off, so this is the off, so it's like a wall. Right, think of this as being like a wall. Gas can't come through the wall, and in the other direction, right, it can pass through, and you'll know because you'll shut this off, start the machine, and then let it run, and it'll shut off on its own. It'll suck all the gas out of the bowl, and that's good, right? So that little bit of extra, Stable in there is going to run through it and sit in here and coat everything, sit in here. And then when it runs out of fuel, there'll be very little left in here, and that won't cause you any issues. So that's how I usually do it. And then it's it. Forget about it. And it's this time of year that I come back to it, because if usually it's at the end of the year, it's got a lot of dust on it. And there might be a little bit of grease and everything. But as long as we get it off every year, because it's that level of dirt and rust and everything that just every year after year after year, right? If you don't get it off, it just builds up. Once a year is really all you need. And then if you really like your machine, occasionally just hose it, right, when you're done using it. Set it out in the sun on a nice warm day to dry. Let's go to the next thing. Now, while I'm here, I'm going to take a look at my plug. We can see how it's been running. I ran it, but not that long, but we should still see some indication. You really want to take it out while, ever want to take out a plug while the engine's hot, because plug is steel and the engine head or block is aluminum, and it's just not a good idea. So let it cool down. And we're just going to take a peek. She's running real good. Now that little bit of, hopefully you can see that little bit of extra carbon on there is nothing. It looks really good. She's been running really nice. And like I said, I ran it, and then when I washed it, I just started it up and ran it for a little while, just to get it dry. Looks good. I'm going to clean this up, and we're going to cap it to about 30,000 should be fine. And we'll put some no-sees on it, and we'll put it back in. I'll show you in a minute. All right, ready to put the plug in. So make sure that this gasket surface is clean. Right, because this is a gasket style plug. Another reason why you want to make sure there's no dirt in the area where you're going to put the plug in, because you don't want to knock dirt into the motor. So that's another reason why I like to wash it. I also like to blow if there's any junk there. And this is the plug. Now I sandblast mine, and you have to clean the plug a little bit first, get all the oil off of it, blow it, and you can sandblast it, repeat the process, and you got to make sure it is whistle clean, because the sand can get stuck in there. So you really got to get it clean, soak it, and blow it with high pressure air. These are gasket style plugs, right? They have a little gasket here. It's a steel sort of washer gasket. So when I go to tighten this down. If yours is new, that could, you know, what you're going to feel is going to feel like it's stripping the threads. Go slow because you've got to compress the gasket. Now this is an NGK. This one is a BPR. I think it says 6ES, right? These are really nice plugs, the NGKs. Great in Hondas. Probably one of the best plugs you can use for a Honda. Now this gasket has already been compressed, so I shouldn't have to really fight with it. Now let's see. Yeah, it's already been compressed. I can feel it, right? It's tight. Now if you want, oh, I think my customer's here. You can put a little chain wax in that or a little dielectric. I think we'll do that. We'll be back in a minute. Now this is a dielectric grease. It contains silicone, right? And it's designed for these things. Dielectric meaning is it's not conductive, but it will protect the end of the plug, but most importantly, it'll protect the end of here in the coil, because believe it or not, this is great for snow blowers and things like that. You put something like this on, just a little bit on a Q-tip, make sure it's clean in there. Also check to make sure that you don't have rust in there. A lot of the Briggs engines and some of the others, that rust inside there is a big problem, and it's also a big problem, you know, in general, right? Because it's rusting, and a rusty connection is not a good connection. Or you can just use chain wax. So we're going to put it down now on all fours, and then we're going to loosen up this screw here. This screw on the side, pretty much every Honda I've ever seen has this. So we're just going to loosen it up, and we're going to let that fuel drain out. And we also, if you want, you can spray a little bit of gum out in there. And then we're going to let the fuel flow a little bit. So that's up next, just to make sure it's clean. Let's go get a tool for that. All right, 10 millimeter. Let's give it a check. And we're going to pull it out. Now again, the fuel shut off. Right, that's the fuel is closed, so it's just going to run out. See it's running out? Whatever's in there. And that should be enough. And if you saw that was, you can get a little cup. It depends on the design of your Honda, or a lot of, there's a few other engines out there. Some of the Kohlers have it. And that should be enough, right? If you think your gas is really putrid, let it run longer. But I maintain this, so it's okay. All right? And just wipe up, and we're done. Move to the next item. All right, so now just a little bit about lubricating cables and making some of the other lubrication points. Again, so I was using the chain wax. And that's what we're going to put on here. My favorite is the Liquid Wrench Chain and Cable Lube anti-sling formula. I can't get it. I don't have to tell you guys. It's made in the United States. I don't know what's going on with it. Welcome to the New World Order, right? That's that New World Order. But you can also use something like this. This is a Bell Ray, a 6-in-1. It's a lubricant. It's got, you know, corrosion inhibitors. It's actually very good, but it's not a wax. It's not gonna, like, that's what I like about the chain lubes and the chain waxes, is they're gonna dry. They go in like a lubricant, they go in like a penetrant, but then they wax up, grease up, as it were. So on this machine, there's only a couple of points, but your machine's gonna vary a little. Also, we wanna get this cable, and I wanna get it up there, so depending upon where you are, what machine exactly you have. Now I'm just going to move it through, and all right, so it's important to hit any of the areas that, you know, you need to lube. Any area in your cable. I went up top and I did it. I don't need to show you that. You just need to get in, get the ends, do whatever you can to get your cables lubricated. Most of what you need to do on any machine that you're going to be working with, if you haven't lubed your cables, you're going to want to lube them up. So get some 3-in-1 oil, get some penetrant, anything that you can get in there as a lubricant. This is done here. This switch is still off. We'll turn it back on when we're ready to test it, and I'll be back in a minute.
All right, I've got the machine turned on its side, and we want to just check the condition of the blade. I can see here that the blade needs some work. We're gonna sharpen that in a little bit. But I've cleaned everything underneath. You want to defoul the deck, and that's generally the term that they use. What I can see is in here I have a clutched system. And that means that the blade is controlled up at the handle. So I want to get that lubricated. There's a number of things inside. Also with the transmission, there's areas we can lube. Your machine may be a little bit different. There's, like I said, the ball and clutch arrangement. It's a plate. It rotates. I want to get that. I want to get over by the bearings. There's a spring up in there. There's the cable back in there. You're not going to be able to see a lot of this stuff. But when you're working with your machine, you'll see something very similar. I want to get the bearings from the back side while I'm here, and I find the chain lube, I think, is the best product for this. So anything that moves and spins, any kind of cable, that's what I'm looking to hit. So everything's nice and clean. We've got everything lubricated, and now we can go to removing the blade. Remember just to wipe up any of the excess from the spray lube. You don't want that sitting around. Let's just pull these blades off real fast, take a quick look at them, and I'm going to bring them outside and grind them and clean them with my 4-inch grinder and a flapper disc. So we'll go out there in a minute. We'll take a quick look at that. But the blades aren't too bad. They just need some attention.
You're just going to oil drain into a pan and remove that and let it drain. I'm going to go back to doing the blade. Let's go over and take a look at the blade progress, and I'll go show you guys a few tips while this is doing its thing. Now I got a little table out here because it's just easier. It's a little rainy today, so I don't want to leave the camera out. But I go over it, the whole thing with the grinder first, and then I sharpen. And of course I'm using a flapper disc. Anywhere between 30, 40, 80 grit on a flapper disc works much better, and that also allows me to clean the blade a little bit. Now I'm still going to wire wheel this, and I think we'll even paint it too. That's what I usually do for my customers, especially on the sales. Now, if you have pits in it where you've got areas where you've had chunks taken out, this steel is very hard, so that happens a lot. But a mistake a lot of people will make is you need to flatten the surface off to get rid of any of the the chinks that are in it, and then you make it sharp. You have to follow the original line, the angle, and then you make it razor sharp. But then you got to come back and dress it down, make a couple of passes lightly with the sander disc to blunt the end, because this hardened steel will chip, and it's those chips that really kill a blade quick, because you get rid of the chips, right? You got to really lay into it and remove a lot of material. So let's just do that real quick over here. So one side's done, everything else is clean. I'm just going to hit it real fast, right? Now there's no chips in it, so I don't really have to go this way first. It's just to straighten it. Keep it moving, don't lay into it. So you want to keep it moving, don't lay on any one spot, you'll overheat it and you'll ruin the temper. That's nice and sharp, just like that, right? And that's it, and that'll help it survive the chipping issues. So I even tried to get over here. Now, the squarer you make the blade on the end, right, the squarer the blade is, the better the cut. Most of the cutting is in about an inch right here. The rest is just a bit of grinding. Now, any mating surface that's on these things, and these mate together, but any mating surface, you want to make sure you're good and clean, because you want it to lay flat. So I'm going to go check out the balance on these things, just hang a nail on the wall and do that. I have a little blade thing that you could check, but I find it troublesome. The best thing often for me is just a nail on the wall. And I also want to clean it one more time with a wire wheel, because of all the shapes and everything. And then I think we'll paint it. We could do a little bit better than this, right? So we'll be back in a minute. You can see they hang perfect, right? That's damn good, believe me. When I have a blade that's a problem, I can see it on a nail, and then I can feel it. The oil wasn't too bad because I blew dirt in it because it was blowing everything around, but it's not bad. If you can see through to the bottom for the most part, then it's not too bad. But, you know, in keeping with everything, right? A little bit of pain now, right? A lot less pain later. We want to keep this thing running nice.
20 minutes later.
All right, these are still a little bit tacky. I just use a thin, fast dry. And so typically the wing, that's the wing, goes towards the deck. Because otherwise that would be the thing that would be hitting the ground. That's not what cuts. This is for lift, to lift up the grass. And on this one, you can see the way they fit. Right, they fit very specifically. And also another way to know is that the angled part of your sharpening area, that goes towards the deck. And another thing I did was I put a little bit of no-sees on the bolts. And I just want to grab a screwdriver. This is a little bit nasty in here. It's a good opportunity to, whatever you got to do. I missed this when I was cleaning. Okay? And all that. Because it's just a baffle. So we may want to take this off because it's building up in here too much. Yeah, it's been packing up in there for a long time. So I'm going to clean this out, and probably a little bit later, I'm going to rinse that area. We'll get off that last little bit of debris. All right, so we're just going to put it back. But a couple of tips for whether you have this machine or something similar, right? Any kind of machine. So I wired wheeled off the tops because they're starting to rust. And anytime you have any junk inside, pick it out with a pick. Also, this is going into plastic. We're going to take a little bit of blue lock because these are like self-tappers, and you know there's not that many times that you're going to be able to do this before you start having a problem. So just a little bit of blue Loctite should be fine. And I haven't had to do this, you know, ever. Just start them first, nice and tight. They won't vibrate out, and you won't lose them. And you know, because water and moisture is sitting on those, you want to stop them from rusting because if they rust too much, you won't get them out. Little chain wax that will protect the heads. Let's put the blade on. We're gonna make sure it lines up. This way I'm done underneath here. The rest of it's pretty clean. If you see any sticks or whatever, that's good. That's probably about 100 pounds, less than that really. But these things bang, they have hammers in them, so you can't really go by torque. Let's put it on all fours and we'll get to a couple more things. All right, let's talk about oil. So this is going to be the oil for this machine for a while. I have some 5W40, but there's actually a bit of a mix in here. It's mostly a synthetic. There's some Rotellas, a few other things. But I like to put a little additives in. So may I introduce, and I'm not paid by them, the Lucas is very nice. It works very well. It works really good. It'll thicken oil. So if you feel your oil's a little bit thin or your engine's getting a little old, maybe you see some puffs of blue smoke when you start it. Hondas will do that. Hondas, when the valve guides start to get a little sloppy, or there's also a single valve seal on the intake, and there's no valve seal on the exhaust. So oil can drip in and get in there, and you can thicken it up. Another thing we can thicken it up with is gear oil. Now, gear oil is actually very good for engines. The problem is that it can make sulfur compounds. What's so good about it is one of the things is that it's got friction modifiers and extreme pressure lubricants. And the sulfur, depending upon whether it's active or inactive sulfur, those sulfur compounds, they operate at low temperatures. One does, one of them, I forget which one, and the other one operates at higher temperatures, but they're extreme pressure lubricants. Generally, we want to get sulfur out of our fuels and stuff. They used to put it in a lot more. It can cause something like acid rain or whatever if you've got a million cars driving around. But if you want to extend the life or protect yourself a little bit more, it's a lawnmower. How often are you going to use it, right? So let's start by putting a little bit in the bottom. So I'm going to put a little bit in here. And I've used this to stop oil burning as well. I'm just going to put a little bit in. We don't need a lot. That's more than enough, right? A little bit more should do it. There we go. Just a little bit. It'll thicken up the oil a little bit. That sulfur will actually help it. And then this should take, we're going to try about 20 ounces. I forget what they take. A lot of times the oil doesn't all come out. You know, you're tipping it on its side and it gets caught up in different places. And so we don't want to overfill it because then we'll have to tip it over and dump it. So let me start putting that oil in. We'll come back and check it in a minute, and I'll give you a tip on checking it. So Honda says to properly check the oil, you want to screw the dipstick in. Wipe it off, and you don't got to tighten it, just stick it in, and thread it in all the way, and then take it out. And I think we're a little high. So like I said earlier, right? I don't know if you can see it, but I see it. It's about up to here. So she's a little too much right now. We could try to suck a little bit out. You know, it's not a good idea to have extra oil in the engine because what'll happen is it'll have to work against that extra oil that's in there and increase the internal pressures, and it could force it to use more oil. But I say we could probably just leave it, right? It's not that much more above, and you know, you'd have to dump it out or you got to suck it out. So that's why I said, even with the measuring cups, there was probably some left in there. Not gonna worry about it. It's not that ridiculously full. All right, we get to the next step in a minute. I probably should have started off with this, but this is optional. But so we, as Honda owners, right, we have an added little bonus, and that bonus is only 3 bolts that hold on the pull start and this cover. And so to start off, right, I clean this thing, and so 10 millimeter. But I really recommend you do this, guys, if you haven't done it, to any engine, right? But the other engines, Briggs engines and what have you, there's a lot of bolts and a lot of things you got to take off. Not so with the Honda. So there's a couple advantages here. So one, we can clean this out because that gets so full of junk, and it'll eventually just be really hard to pull. So that's one reason. Then also, they're air cooled, these engines. They're oil cooled to some degree, but they're air cooled. And I could just blow this out, right? But if you have a lot of dust and dirt all along your carburetor area, there's a little bit, right? I see a little bit starting to build up. We could give this a quick rinse if we wanted to, right? While I'm here. It's in really good shape. Also, there's another spot, and on these Hondas particularly, a lot of debris builds up deep in here, and it just builds up and builds up. It gets stuck in here. So we could bring this outside and just give this thing a good rinse and just rinse it all through. Put a little bit of super clean on it, and before it gets dark tonight, it's not a bad idea. And then if you want, like here, I've got you can clean off your ignition if you want to do things like that. It's easy to get at your plug. It's just really, really nice and simple and straightforward. So I'm going to wheel this thing down. I'm going to bring it outside, and I'll probably be back tomorrow. We'll finish it up then. We just have a couple of little tiny things to go through, and I will see you then. Once you get back in here, there's always debris stuck back there. Boy, this thing's clean, right? So we got one more thing to do that I'm going to do is I'm going to clear coat it. Now I like to use an automotive clear, 2K. And I just use a very thin coat. It's all thinned out. I don't even use a lot of hardener. But that's going to protect the UV on the plastics. Because remember, ozone, which is an extra oxygen molecule, and the oxygen. And remember, I'm here at sea level, so the pressure's high. There's more available oxygen than UV, right? So all those things, especially with plastic, the thinners come out, essentially, and plastic degrades. Rust-Oleum engine enamel. This is good to 500 degrees. And this product, if you use this as a clear, I use it a lot. And what's nice about this product and also the product that I'm using is that if you spill gas, it doesn't come apart right away. It's not going to wipe off. So even if you put like black on or another color on your machine, and a tip would be is put that on top. This way, because you're going to spill gas, you're going to spill things like that, and it'll just keep it nicer longer. Let's just do the final on it. We'll be back in a few minutes. This just got a quick cleaning, so I'm just going to put a little bit of lubricant on here. We'll pull it through all the way. It gets stuck. They get stuck. There was a lot of debris on it because it's the first thing. Everything sits here, and then there's a spring pocket somewhere. Now I'm holding the camera, so where is it? Here it is. It's over here. So we're just going to put a little bit in there. I'm going to pull it through a bunch of times and then wipe it off, and I'll put it to the side. Jug on. This will be ready to go. Hopefully you guys are getting your machines ready to go. And if you have a Honda, and a lot of this stuff that I did is applicable to any machine. It is a $1,000 lawnmower, brand new. And I will say again, I think it is the best lawnmower on the planet. And it is a dying breed because very soon everything's going to be electric. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Enjoy the spring, and yeah, Arch's Garage, like and subscribe, and leave some comments, guys. I'll see you in a bit.